Imagine living a life so beautiful that people admired you wherever you went, only to become the most feared face in history. For thousands of years, the name Medusa has inspired fear. Her image appears in paintings, sculptures, books, films, and even modern fashion. She is remembered as the woman with snakes for hair, the creature whose gaze could turn living people into cold, lifeless stone. To many, she is simply a monster defeated by the legendary hero Perseus. But what if everything you think you know about Medusa is only half the story? What if the monster was never the villain? What if the true horror wasn't the snakes, but the injustice that created them? The legend of Medusa is one of the oldest and most mysterious tales in Greek mythology. It is a story filled with powerful gods, impossible curses, tragic choices, and a young woman whose fate changed forever because of forces she could never control. Unlike many monsters in mythology, Medusa was not born terrifying. According to later and more widely known versions of the myth, she began her life as an exceptionally beautiful mortal woman. Ancient writers described her as possessing extraordinary beauty, with long golden hair that attracted admiration wherever she went. Some legends even claim that her beauty rivaled that of the goddesses themselves. But beauty, in Greek mythology, was often as dangerous as it was admired. Those blessed with extraordinary gifts frequently attracted jealousy, obsession, or the attention of the gods, and that attention rarely ended well. Medusa devoted herself to Athena, the powerful goddess of wisdom and war. She became a priestess in Athena's sacred temple, where she vowed to remain pure and dedicate her life to serving the goddess. Every day she honored the sacred rituals, believing the temple was a place of protection, peace, and divine justice. She could never have imagined that this sanctuary would become the place where her life was destroyed. One day, Poseidon, the mighty god of the sea, entered Athena's temple. Ancient versions of what happened next differ, and historians continue to debate their meanings. Some accounts describe seduction, while others tell a far darker story of violence and abuse. Regardless of which version is told, every version agrees on one heartbreaking fact. After the encounter, Medusa's life would never be the same. Instead of directing her anger toward Poseidon, Athena punished Medusa. Why? Was Athena protecting the sanctity of her temple? Was she unable to challenge another Olympian god? Or did ancient storytellers simply reflect a world where the powerless often suffered, while the powerful escaped without consequence? No one knows for certain, but the punishment itself became one of mythology's most unforgettable transformations. Her beautiful golden hair twisted into writhing serpents. Her radiant face became so horrifying that anyone who looked directly into her eyes was instantly transformed into stone. The same beauty that once inspired admiration was replaced by a curse that guaranteed loneliness. Friends disappeared. Visitors fled. No one could even look at her without dying. Imagine that for a moment. A single glance, and every chance of friendship, love, forgiveness, or even a simple conversation vanished forever. She became completely isolated. The world remembered only the monster. Very few remembered the woman. Driven into exile, Medusa wandered far from civilization until she reached a lonely island inhabited by the Gorgons. Depending on the version of the myth, Medusa was either the only mortal among three Gorgon sisters or the youngest of them all. Unlike her immortal sisters, Medusa could one day die, and that single fact would seal her fate. As years passed, stories about Medusa spread across the ancient world. Sailors whispered her name with fear. Travelers warned one another never to approach the cursed island. Warriors dreamed of becoming famous by slaying the terrible Gorgon. Yet none of them truly knew who she had once been. To them, she was no longer a woman. She had become a legend. Parents frightened their children with stories of her deadly stare. Artists carved terrifying images of her face onto shields and temples to ward off evil spirits. Ironically, the very face people feared also became a symbol of protection. How could something so terrifying also protect people? Greek mythology is filled with contradictions like these. Meanwhile, far away from Medusa's lonely prison, another story was beginning. A young prince named Perseus would soon be sent on what many believed was a suicide mission to bring back the head of Medusa. No ordinary warrior had ever succeeded. Looking directly at her meant certain death. Getting close enough to strike was nearly impossible, and escaping alive seemed unimaginable. Yet Perseus would not fight alone. The gods themselves intervened. Athena presented him with a polished shield so reflective that it could serve as a mirror. Hermes provided a razor-sharp sword capable of cutting through almost anything. Other divine gifts, including winged sandals, a magical pouch, and the helmet of Hades, which granted invisibility, would transform an impossible quest into one of mythology's greatest adventures. But here's the question few people ask. If Medusa truly was an unstoppable monster, why did it require so many divine gifts to defeat her? Was Perseus conquering evil, or was he carrying out the will of the gods against someone who had already suffered enough? These questions continue to fascinate historians, classicists, and storytellers thousands of years later, because Medusa is no longer viewed only as a monster. Today, many scholars interpret her story as a tragic tale about power, injustice, and survival. Some see her as a warning about the cruelty of fate. Others view her as a symbol of resilience, a woman transformed into something terrifying by circumstances beyond her control. Her image has become more than mythology. It has become a symbol discussed in literature, psychology, philosophy, feminism, and art across the world. But before Medusa became a symbol, she was a story that has survived for more than 2,000 years, a story that refuses to disappear. So who was Medusa really? A ruthless monster whose deadly gaze threatened humanity? Or a young woman condemned by the gods, remembered not for who she was, but for what she became? To answer that question, we must travel back to the beginning of one of Greek mythology's darkest and most unforgettable legends. But Medusa's story did not end with her death. According to Greek mythology, the moment Perseus severed Medusa's head, two extraordinary beings emerged from her blood. One was Pegasus, the magnificent winged horse who would later become one of the most celebrated creatures in all of mythology. The other was Chrysaor, a powerful warrior whose name would echo through generations of ancient legends. Even in death, Medusa gave birth to new myths, proving that her story was far from over. Perseus carefully placed Medusa's head inside the magical pouch given to him by the gods. Although her body was gone, the terrible power of her gaze remained. Anyone who looked upon the severed head was still instantly turned to stone. During his journey home, Perseus used this terrifying power more than once, defeating enemies who stood in his way without ever drawing another sword. What had once been considered a curse became one of the greatest weapons in the Greek mythology. Eventually, Perseus returned the head to Athena. Rather than destroying it, the goddess mounted Medusa's face upon her legendary shield, the Aegis. From that day forward, the image of Medusa became a symbol of divine protection. Ancient Greeks placed her face on shields, temples, armor, and city gates, believing it could frighten away evil itself. It is one of mythology's greatest ironies that the woman once feared as a monster ultimately became a guardian against monsters. Centuries later, Medusa's story continues to inspire debate. Was she truly the villain, or was she a victim of powers far greater than herself? Ancient authors offered different answers, and modern readers continue to interpret her legend in new ways. To some, she represents justice denied. To others, she symbolizes survival in the face of unimaginable suffering. Perhaps that is why her story has endured for more than 2,000 years, not because of the snakes upon her head, but because behind every monster, there may be a forgotten human story waiting to be remembered.